we're all familiar with My Little Pony. Hasbro's signature toy line of little plastic equines and other toys, its most famous time was the 2010 Decade set, branded as Friendship is Magic. During this time period, and still active to this day, numerous fan works, projects, and more would be created in loving tribute to Friendship is Magic. Fan-made episodes of sorts like Double Rainbow, beautiful animated song videos like Children of the Night, Lullaby for a Princess, or Luna's Determination, or fan songs like Anthropology, Pinky's Brew, Discord, Rainbow Factory, and Swing Octi Swing. All are known and mostly quite loved amongst the fandom, and for good reason. They show passion, skill, and talent that goes into creating things for an entire community to come around and enjoy. And to this day, content like this is still being made. But one particular fan work stands out as particularly ambitious, especially large, and complete with a full voice cast, animation, and story starring our favorite little ponies. Journey of the Spark wasn't just an episode or a song, it was a full movie. Unfortunately, it's a full movie that never got released. Through a variety of problems, Journey of the Spark never came to be. Not for lack of trying though, and today we're going to look over just about everything we can to see what this movie might have been. Its changes, directions, art, story, songs, and more. I'm Glistening Dawn, and I'll be your guide for this historical deep dive into My Little Pony's possibly biggest fan work that never was, Journey of the Spark. One of the biggest hurdles to finding information on Journey of the Spark is the fact that the film's creators took down a lot of information upon the movie's cancellation. The original YouTube channel for the movie was completely terminated, eliminating standard access to previews. However, while the majority of original sources were removed, we still have ways to get a look at a lot of this movie's information. Various artists for the movie released their work individually. News sites like Equestria Daily maintain their articles reporting on the film, and videos reacting to or covering the content remain up on YouTube. As a result, we can use these sources to find a plethora of content that has nearly been forgotten and lost. As far as primary resources go, actually not everything was deleted. Be it by oversight or just a lack of needing to take it down, the original Tumblr account for the studio and development survived. This Tumblr revealed several interesting details on development and provided resources, videos, and links that I will be referencing extensively throughout this video. As a result, finding information about this film is not easy, but the tools exist to glean plenty of fascinating data that we will go over today. Furthermore, I will be including the Google Doc I used to track all of my resources in the description of this video, so you will be able to find all of my resources and look at everything yourself. Now then, let's go ahead and dive into the movie. Here's a small taste of what Journey of the Spark was like.
Where am I?
What you just saw was a short preview that was frequently displayed by the development team to showcase the movie. Some of you might actually remember it from back when the film was still being produced. Unfortunately, this preview was nearly lost. As it stands, the one resource that features this preview in peak quality now is a 2012 interview on Stay Brony, My Friends, with the prominent My Little Pony fan Dusty Cat, and featuring the director of Journey of the Spark. But now that you have a small taste of what's in store, let's go ahead and begin with a small look at the cast and crew before diving into the story. Journey of the Spark had an absolutely massive team working on it. According to the official Tumblr, at one point there were 80 people working on it, and this was around halfway through the process.
It's quite likely that several more joined the team. I obviously will not be going over the entire team, but we will look at some of the known voice actors and some other names you might know. The movie was directed and primarily written by Eric Rydnor, now known as Violet. Rydnor handled most of the film's direction, appeared at numerous panels, interviews, and more. The voice cast was made up of numerous heavy hitters throughout the My Little Pony fanbase, and you might actually recognize some names. Meredith Sims, a veteran from Fighting as Magic, would be Twilight Sparkle and Fluttershy. Reagan Murdoch, best known for his role in Epic Web Time, was returning as Discord. Jim McGregor, known for their work in Snowdrop and Fall of the Crystal Empire, was playing as Princess Celestia. Similarly, Hannah Trusty, from the same two animated features, was reprising her role as Princess Luna. Amanda Gonzalez came onto the team as Pinkie Pie. Madeline Robison was on board as Rarity, and Natalie Van Sistine was playing as Queen Chrysalis. Last but certainly not least, Emily Coach, voice of Rainbow Dash and Double Rainboom, was cast in the role of Rainbow Dash, obviously. That all being said, there were several cast changes before this final cast was locked into place. For instance, Rainbow Dash was originally being played by Jenny Nicholson, well known for her work on the My Little Pony abridged series known as Friendship is Witchcraft. Likewise, there were several other roles in the film that were moved about, and some were cut from the rules altogether, as will be discussed later. As for songs, lyrical music was created by Forest Rain, probably best known as the creator of the song Isn't It Great to Be Different. Furthermore, a full orchestra was also set up to create the movie's soundtrack as well. With all these assets and more, it was clear that the team of Celestial Spark Studios was ready to create their film. Now that you have some idea of the talent going into the movie, let's take a look at the final planned story and see what it was like. The story for Journey of the Spark took numerous twists and turns throughout development. Several planned subplots were eventually cut, characters were pruned out, and the overall adventure received various changes. However, the core idea of the story remained intact. The film was planned to be an adventure story, where Twilight Sparkle departs from Equestria and her friends search for her to reunite the elements of harmony and defeat the combined forces of Queen Chrysalis, and much more dangerously, Discord. As it currently stands, the actual script for the movie unfortunately appears to be lost. I looked around quite extensively for it, but all signs point to the script being deleted from the internet, though it does seem it did exist at one point. I would also like to extend a special thanks to Little Shy FIM, who worked with me to try and locate the script, though our efforts did not find it. That all being said, there does remain one tool to see how the story would have played out. At one point, the script did exist on a Google Doc, which was retrieved by a fanfiction user named Lord Malavar063. Armed with the script, Lord Malavar converted the entire text into a story form, deleting obvious script pieces like Twilight enters the room, and making it suitable for reading and storytelling. The actual story appears to be unchanged though, giving us a way to see what would have happened, and as will be shown later, how various pieces of development work would have fit into the film. A link to the story will be included in the Google Doc of resources, so you will be able to read the script in story form if you'd like. But, for now, I'll go ahead and explain the story in a somewhat accelerated fashion. Be warned, spoilers will follow. Unsurprisingly, the story begins with Queen Chrysalis working on getting revenge on one Twilight Sparkle, the pony who foiled her plans to conquer Canterlot as shown in Friendship is Magic Season 2 finale. To do so, she enlists the aid of Discord, who is currently trapped in stone, but very much capable of communication. Discord points Chrysalis in the right direction in what to do, and the changelings begin their work. Now we cut to Ponyville, where Twilight Sparkle and her friends are set to go to Canterlot. The princesses have summoned them to attend the Archmage ceremony, in which an immensely powerful unicorn will be honored through an event that happens every 100 years. Twilight and company reach Canterlot without any issue, obviously curious about who the Archmage will be this time. Once there, they are greeted by the princesses, and Twilight Sparkle receives a special assignment from Celestia. She is to manage all security in Canterlot for the ceremony, ensuring that no trouble breaches the capital for the Archmage coronation's duration. And from here, as you'd probably guess, things go south very quickly. As it turns out, the Changelings have breached Canterlot once again, and Chrysalis removes Celestia from the equation via an ambush. In her efforts to keep Canterlot safe, Twilight Sparkle makes a terrible mistake of placing all guards along the city's perimeter, enabling the Changelings to easily drop their second surprise on the city without much resistance. A full-grown dragon. As you'd probably guessed, Canterlot is razed, the guard is scattered, and Twilight is outsmarted. Thanks to a Changeling trick, all are led to believe Celestia is dead, and Luna breaks down in a rage. Twilight is abandoned by all of her friends and a furious Luna and is now alone. Wandering in a state of sorrow, Twilight finds herself at the statue of Discord, who now talks with her openly. Through some simple manipulation, Discord tricks Twilight to leave Equestria. With her out of the picture, Discord breaks free of his stone prison, ready to commence chaos. Fortunately, one exception did exist in Twilight's friends abandoning her. True to her element, Rainbow Dash stands as the one ally whose faith in Twilight is unbroken, and she rapidly brings all the others back onto her side. They discover Discord's escape, and the elements of Harmony and Discord work out a deal to try and find Twilight within a few days. And from there, the hunt to find Twilight begins, or else Discord will have free reign over Equestria. The elements of Harmony and Spike search for Twilight throughout Equestria, defeating a Changeling ambush in Appaloosa and moving quickly to track her down. However, Discord has been operating behind the scenes and has now corrupted Twilight in an illusion. Utilizing false versions of the ponies from My Little Pony's very first generation from the 1980s, Discord reduces Twilight Sparkle to a puppet, shattering her will and taking her down. All seems lost until the intervention of one last party, which turns the table. As it turns out, the element of magic itself is a sentient being. You know, the crown Twilight wears is her element of harmony. The element of magic enters the scenario with an avatar construct, an ethereal form of Twilight Sparkle as an alicorn. The element of magic tracks down Spike, and with his aid, leads the others to Twilight's downfall. From there, Twilight's friends and the element of magic undo Discord's corruption, restoring Twilight from her puppet form, shattering the illusion city she was trapped in, and getting Twilight back in the game. And from there, we move quickly to our final battle. Discord pulls no punches and mutates Chrysalis into a monstrous form, and the two battle the element wielders in a final battle throughout Canterlot. Rainbow Dash receives an injured wing and Twilight is nearly killed, but in the end, good, of course, triumphs over evil. Chrysalis is knocked out of her monster form by Twilight Sparkle in their duel, and Discord's returned to stone by the main six. And from there, the ending. Twilight Sparkle is saved from death's door by the element of magic's avatar, who heals her wounds and restores her again. It is revealed that the role of Archmage was to be given to Twilight all along, and Twilight receives her award with great prestige. All of the main six and Spike receive medals and honors as well, and are praised for their efforts in saving Equestria once again. The element of magic personally congratulates them all as the story ends, and all celebrate their victory. Oh, and in an epilogue of sorts, Chrysalis is imprisoned in Canterlot next to the statue of Discord, who torments her with his laughter as he's somehow still able to communicate again. Overall, the story is pretty straightforward. Chrysalis and Discord are back, Twilight messes up, her friends hunt her down in an epic quest, restore her, and they win. The story does feel a bit predictable at points. To be frank, I knew Twilight Sparkle was the Archmage the moment the role and coronation were mentioned in the first act. But there were some interesting twists. I personally do feel the element of magic turns into a massive instant win button once it becomes involved. That being said, the idea was quite good, and I like its presence in the story, with it overall being my favorite major addition to the world. It's interesting to note this actually came before the show did something similar, with the Tree of Harmony taking up an avatar and being the force that saves Equestria a few times. They even share the same avatar, an ethereal alicorn version of Twilight Sparkle. Using the ponies from Generation 1 was also pretty clever, complete with the twist of them being mere illusions for Discord's plans. As a result, the story is fairly clear-cut, but comes with some unique ideas that give it a breath of fresh air that I think overall make it work well enough. But what else was there intended for the story? As I previously mentioned, there were numerous beta elements in the script that were cut. Now that you know what the final story is like, let's go over some cut details. There were a lot of ideas that ultimately just did not make it into the final cut. Well, the final cut if it ever got released. Regardless, Journey of the Spark was at one point much larger than the final script. According to the Tumblr, at one point the script was 206 pages long and would have gone for about 3 hours and 26 minutes. And of course later got a massive trim, shortening it to 100 pages and an hour and 40 minutes of runtime. Numerous characters were cut from the final script, or were reduced to a mere cameo status. Probably the best known cuts were Shining Armor and Princess Cadance. The two were planned to have a decently large role at first, but were completely removed from the film entirely. Original characters were initially planned to be in the film as well, with two changelings named Shrill and Krill being known examples. They were all cut. As far as subplots go, there are two major ones that we know of that were ultimately removed. As it turns out, Princess Luna was initially intended to be one of the film's main protagonists. Luna, also known as Best Princess, was originally planned to accompany the main six and Spike on their journey to find Twilight Sparkle, acting as a leader of sorts for the party in their quest. She also came with a much larger sub-arc, as detailed in this Tumblr post. As you can see in the post, Luna would have struggled with her insecurities and jealousy, combined with the complications of the Nightmare Moon incident. As the post explains, it would have been a Jekyll-Hyde situation between Luna and Nightmare Moon as she struggled with her fears. It would have eventually reached a climax when Discord convinced her to go all out as Nightmare Moon against Twilight Sparkle. Of course, judging from how the script goes down, we can assume Luna pulls herself back from the edge and reaches a peaceful conclusion. However, it was decided this sub-arc took too much focus from the main story, so Luna was entirely cut from joining the main six on their journey altogether and reduced to a supporting role that occasionally appears. The second known subplot focused on a trio of little fillies we all know and love: Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo, also known as the Cutie Mark Crusaders, also known as the Best Group. The Crusaders would have starred in a subplot that saw them as the responsible party for a jailbreak of Canterlot's dungeons, undoing some of the work the Changelings had done. We actually have another Tumblr post detailing it. As you can see, the Crusaders wind up in Canterlot on a field trip and somehow get themselves lost in the dungeons, as the Crusaders are often to do with getting stuck in weird scenarios. They happen to find out what Discord has done with Twilight Sparkle and take action to help as best they can. They are the ones who spring Shining Armor and Princess Cadance free from the Canterlot dungeons successfully, and from there assist in tracking Twilight Sparkle down. Personally, the idea of the Crusaders being the responsible party for a successful royal jailbreak sounds great to me, but sadly it was also cut to ensure the story remained focused. The Crusaders did stay in the film as a cameo, saying goodbye to their sisters and Rainbow Dash as they depart from Ponyville to search for Twilight, but are mostly silent. In the final script, Scootaloo stands as the one Crusader who had any spoken dialogue left whatsoever, with Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle playing silent roles. Finally, as it turns out, there was one other secret surprise planned for the story. Actresses Lauren Collis and Lauren Goodnight had actually been signed on to play two secret characters in the film, but both characters were cut in the script purge. One of these two characters was Nightmare Moon, whose role we now know thanks to the details on Luna's arc. The other character has an entirely unknown role, though they were not an original character, so we can probably form an idea. The second character was none other than Trixie Lulamoon, also known as the Great and Powerful Trixie, also known as Best Pony. Yep, Trixie was going to be in Journey of the Spark. Her role is entirely unknown though, so we can only guess what sort of part she would have played. At the time, Trixie's only appearance in canon would have been in Ghostbusters, so it is difficult to say. On one hand, some might theorize she would have allied with Discord and the Changelings for revenge on Twilight Sparkle, though some might say this spirals her boastful self too far into villainy, especially since she needed a serious outside influence to send her anywhere even close to that in canon. She might have also been a supporting protagonist, aiding the heroes in their search somehow, or allying with Princess Luna in some way. Regardless, all of this is merely fuel for speculation, and the role of the great and powerful Trixie is a mystery. We can note that despite her character being cut, Lauren Collis was cast as another secret character. It's entirely speculation who she was though. Given the script not having many ever secrets to hide though, I would personally guess it was the role of the element of magic. Shining Armor's voice actor, Michael Carney, was also reassigned, though his role is also unknown. Finally, as it turns out, there existed plans for a second production after Journey of the Spark at one point. Not a sequel for the film itself, but more My Little Pony fan works were at one point considered for Celestial Spark Studios, and we know of plans for at least 3 different ideas. The first one was the one that got the furthest, a TV show style production named Living in Lost Pegasus. This would have been a series that focused on the fan favorite background ponies, Final Scratch, or DJ Pon 3, and Lyra. The two would have been roommates living in the sunny side of Lost Pegasus in episodes that started out engaging in mundane, everyday activities that steadily grew more bizarre and out of control. Fan actresses, Rena Chan and Sarah Williams, were actually signed on to play as Vinyl and Lyra respectively. A few episodes were in the process of being written at one point as well. Secondly, we have the idea of a superhero movie focusing on the character of the mysterious Ne'er-do-well. It would have apparently been an origin story similar to the movies Batman Returns or The Amazing Spider-Man, with Ne'er-do-well saving Manhattan from an attack of some sort. The third and last idea was a movie about the character Daring Do. The inspirations were cited as Indiana Jones, The Mummy, and also The Adventures of Tintin. Apparently, the goal would have been to combine the archaeological elements of Indiana Jones with the more mystical pieces of The Mummy together, creating something unique starring Daring Do. Unfortunately, as we all know, none of these projects came to be. While the Lost Pegasus one actually did have some development, all their ideas were inevitably scrapped by Rydmoor. In fact, Journey of the Spark hadn't even met its final fate before these projects were completely shut down, putting them to rest even sooner. So, as we can see, there were numerous ideas and stories that were once planned to be told, but none of them made it into the final script. I admit I find this rather disappointing seeing my favorite princess, favorite group, and favorite character all get completely removed or reduced to smaller roles. But, of course, that's just how it goes, and given how large the script was, I can understand wanting to focus on the main cast. But now with the script and story covered, let's look at the music of the movie. Journey of the Spark was planned to feature plenty of music. A full orchestra was planned to be used to create the background music for the film, and plans were in place for there to be 8 lyrical tracks, all created by Forrest Rain. As it stands, only 2 of these tracks were ever fully released to the public, but we actually have knowledge on a lot of these other tracks. The 2 tracks that Forrest Rain released were titled On Our Way and Twilight's Lament. They were the first 2 tracks of the movie, with the first highlighting the main 6 and giving a glimpse at their personalities, and the latter is a solo by Twilight Sparkle as she mourns her failure in Canterlot and the seeming death of Princess Celestia. Before we dive deeper into those though, let's discuss what we know of the other tracks. Of the main 6, Twilight Sparkle obviously features in a solo. What about the others? Well, the main 6 were planned to have 2 other songs. Spike and the main 6, barring Twilight, were set to have a song discussing the memories they have of Twilight Sparkle. It was described as sweet and tender, as they go over all the various memories and times they have spent with their friend as they search for her. Thanks to the fanfiction, we can actually find a part in the story where the main 6 actually do discuss their memories, and it notes at the end, a song titled The Spark Within would have been sung there. It's overall quite reasonable to assume that this is the song in question. One member of the main 6 was also planned to have a song for themselves. As is a custom in Friendship is Magic, Pinkie Pie was set to star in a solo song. The song was said to be done in the style of a Friendship Magic song, Ballad of the Crystal Empire. It would have been a gospel number where Pinkie sang to inspire the others to continue on with their search, and not give up in their mission to find Twilight Sparkle. Furthermore, thanks to the fanfiction again, we can see that this song likely had a title as well. As the main 6 and Spike are setting out on a train to find Twilight, Pinkie is shown giving words of encouragement to the others before a song begins. This one is titled The Journey Song, and is likely the solo track Pinkie Pie would have featured in. Admittedly, Pinkie Pie happens to be my favorite of the main 6, so seeing that she would have gotten a solo was a pretty nice moment. Pinkie Pie wasn't the only major solo either. Princess Luna was also set to have a solo track, though far less information can be gleaned on it. I was not able to find it within the fanfiction, so I'd say odds are that the song was removed following Princess Luna being largely removed from the movie. The song would have been titled The Mare and the Moon, likely in reference to the title Nightmare Moon held throughout the Friendship is Magic series premiere. Beyond this, the details on Princess Luna's song are a mystery. We also know that Discord and Chrysalis would have had a song thanks to the fanfiction, right after the main six finished making a deal with Discord to get a chance to find Twilight. The song is untitled though, so we otherwise have no information on it. Before diving into the two lyrical tracks it did release, I actually have two little surprises. As it turns out, the official Tumblr did release two brief samples of background music that were made for Journey of the Spark. They were both composed by Michael Nicolosi, one of the music creators for the film. These are the best tastes we have of what the music's instrumental music would have been like, so let's give them a listen. First off is Discord's theme. This track was of course based off of the background song for Discord and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. There's little information on what it would have been used for, but given the title of Discord's theme, we can pretty safely assume that the track would have been used in association with Discord and the movie. Now, let's listen to the second one. This one is also a work in progress according to the Tumblr, but it gives a good idea of how the film's songs would have gone. I personally really like the orchestral feel the song gives, and it probably would have been used to establish the elements of harmony, or maybe something like that, though we can only speculate what it would have been used for in the film at the end of the day. Alright, with those covered, let's get into the song I imagine a good deal of you have been waiting for. Let's go ahead and discuss On Our Way. This was the first track to be released and came out to all audiences in 2013. If the 10-minute opening preview of the film is anything to go by, it would have been the first song to be performed in the movie, and this is also backed up by the fanfiction script. Of the two tracks, and possibly all released media, I must admit that this one is my personal favorite. The track honestly does feel like something you could hear in the actual Friendship is Magic show as Twilight and her companions make their way to Canterlot. Twilight and each of the elements of harmony have a verse to themselves, barring Applejack and Rarity, who share a verse. All of the characters are rather in character to the actual show, and it's overall a very happy, cheerful tune to get the story and film started.
There'll be ponies laughing, ponies dancing, having so much fun. I cannot wait to celebrate everything with everyone. All those thousands of ponies from every place under the sun. Thousands of ponies? Really?
Needless to say, given how long it has been out and its status is pretty much the one and only item that made it out to the public in a complete package, this song is probably the best known product produced for Journey of the Spark. The track features over 200,000 views on YouTube now, is actually a selectable track in My Little Karaoke, and even has a handful of covers on the internet. For a long time, On Our Way was pretty much all we had for this film's lyrical music. Thankfully, Forest Rain struck again in 2019, releasing a rebuilt version of the film's song, Twilight's Lament. It appears that a beta version of the song was actually released in 2014 at BronyCon, but 2019's release appears to be the first and only full release without beta functionality. Given by this point the film had fallen apart, Forest Rain worked with a new actress, getting MLP fan VA Webcake to perform the role of Twilight in the track. Like On Our Way, placing where this track would have happened in the film is thankfully possible. Given scripting from the fanfiction, events that have happened by the song's events, and scripting provided in Forest Rain's video, we can pretty safely pinpoint the song as happening immediately after Twilight is shunned by her friends in the dragon attack on Canterlot. The song is supposed to pretty much be Twilight at her lowest point in the film, and Webcake certainly didn't pull any punches performing her new role.
Did you think friendship was really magic? I don't deserve to cry. I don't deserve pity. I failed. Cast me out beyond this city. Now at the bottom, this emotion, this pain. Twilight, look what you've accomplished with your ego and brain.
It's crystal clear that Twilight is an emotional wreck by this point, and while she wasn't the actress for the film, Webcake absolutely did a great job producing the emotions required for a movie. I admittedly don't like this track quite as much as On Our Way, given I feel it's a bit more out of place compared to actual My Little Pony canon, but I cannot deny that Forest Rain and Webcake did a great job on it, and it's a very enjoyable track. Unfortunately, this is pretty much all the information we have on tracks and music in Journey of the Spark. Thanks to the fanfiction, we know a few of the tracks would have had reprisals, such as The Spark Within, which would have played as the Element of Magic's avatar healed Twilight Sparkle of her fatal wounds following the battle with Chrysalis and Discord. But overall, this sums up just about everything we have to know, so let's move on to the next subject. There was a lot of artwork and visual data made and released for the film, so it's time for a visual tour.
Fittingly for a movie in development, there happens to be plenty of artwork made for the film. Presumably, a lot of it has been lost and never released, but we can still enjoy the artwork that did get released to the public in the past. Here, I've gathered most of the artwork from development I could find for you to enjoy. There's also a few animation tests in here as well. Let's start off with the work of one of the artists known as Ellie Beth. This concept art is, of course, Twilight Sparkle in a dress. The attire was planned to be used in the Archmage coronation, and is what Twilight would have worn to the event. What's more, Ellie Beth released the artwork for some of the Ever dresses as well. This is the dress for Applejack. I must admit I'm impressed, somebody actually convinced her to take her hat off. Considering she wore her hat to the Grand Galloping Gala and even the royal wedding, this Archmage coronation must have been pretty significant. Fluttershy's dress overall reminds me of her gala dress quite a bit. The nature inspirations remain very much intact. It's interesting to see that the brooch is overall rather similar to the element of kindness in the design. Finally, we have Pinkie Pie. Like Applejack, I'm surprised Pinkie was convinced to do up her mane instead of wearing a hat or going as she always goes, but I guess you have to change things up for the Archmage coronation. And that's all of the concept art for the dresses. However, the dresses for Twilight Sparkle and Applejack actually had full animation flash vectors made for them. Made by Sir HCX, this is Twilight's flash puppet in the dress. It was released after Sir HCX resigned from the team, and it was released individually. Applejack's dress render was released on the official Tumblr. It seems a few changes were made from the art, like you can see her tail here. The hat remains out of the picture though. Going back to Ellie Beth, this is probably some of the best known art. This concept art depicts the main six, barring Twilight, Spike, and Princess Luna crossing a log bridge over a waterfall, clearly on a quest. This does tie into previously mentioned beta elements and showcases the original vision Rydnor had for the film. Luna is clearly leading the team in this artwork, showcasing the original plan for her to be one of the main characters of the movie and the one guiding the others on the quest. It's fun to see how all of the characters seem to react to the journey and predicament, and how they seem to line up with Hasbro's actual canon pretty well. Next up we have something special for all the Rainbow Dash fans out here. Here's some art made specifically for her. This artwork was originally used to announce that Jenny Nicholson would be acting as Rainbow Dash in the movie. Of course, making such a promotion over one particular actor might seem strange, but given Friendship is Witchcraft's massive following within the fandom, especially at this point in time, I'm honestly not too surprised. You can also note that Rainbow is wearing the element of loyalty here, which is a nice touch that I appreciate. And next up, we have Timberwolves. Lots of Timberwolves. If you look closely, there's 3 of them chasing poor Twilight here. Thanks to the fanfiction, we actually do know there was a sequence in which Twilight Sparkle attempts to escape from the Timberwolves on her journey. Notably, the sequence actually does not take place within Everfree Forest, which is the usual location of Timberwolves in Friendship is Magic. Thanks to a royal problem, we do know the Timberwolves could be active in areas outside of Everfree though, so it is again interesting to see how this movie is using ideas that would later be used by Hasbro. And for those wondering, yes, Twilight did get away. She warded them off with fire. Up next, we have a promotional poster for the movie, created by Charles Moss. It of course depicts Twilight, the royal sisters, and the looming threat of discord in the back. Following the movie's cancellation, the poster was also placed individually online by the artist with extra text. Now, we reach one of my personal favorites. As you definitely all know by now, the element of magic would have played a major role in the final story, operating with a magical avatar based off of Twilight Sparkle. Here we have the concept art for it, created by Starbat. I really like the contrast used in this image. Twilight Sparkle has been emotionally broken by this point, and in contrast, the element of magic stands strong and capable. Twilight's side of the image is barren and empty, while magic and stars shine around the element. Also, if you look closely, you can see the avatar's version of the element of magic is glowing rather brightly, probably signifying that the element is the one piloting the avatar in the first place. I was honestly surprised this ever had art made for it. The element of magic was one of the biggest secrets for the movie, so I wasn't sure art would be made for it before Hasbro took down the project, but here we are. And I'm glad Starbat released this art for us to enjoy. Up next, we have concept art for the tower where Discord was originally contained during the movie. This one was made by Death Knight Commander. I really like the ominous mood it gives off, and the contrasting symbols of Celestia and Luna on the door. Keep in mind, Discord would likely have gained some influence on the area by now, exploiting the Dorney planets around it, and the Dark Web. This next one was also made by Death Knight Commander. The art was being made during development of the film, but the artist quickly quit working on the movie before the art was done. Eventually, though, he decided to finish it up, releasing it to the public as it is here. As a result, it technically isn't fully official art for the film, but given it was being made during development and just got finished later, I decided to add it to this collection. This was more of a poster of sorts, depicting the entire main cast. Discord is notably controlling Twilight like a puppeteer, referencing what would have happened in the movie until the element of magic intervenes. And next up, we have something really special. The actual Flash puppet vectors that were used in the movie's production were actually released onto the Tumblr account at one point, so we can go ahead and take a look at them now. Here's the puppet for the movie's leading lady, Twilight Sparkle. Following Twilight, we of course have Applejack's Flash puppet. Rainbow Dash's Flash puppet is the next one. After Rainbow Dash comes Fluttershy. Rarity's Flash puppet is next, of course. And last but not least, the Flash puppet for Pinkie Pie. Now look, they all come with spinning versions as well. These Flash puppets would of course have been what the team actually animated in the movie, so it's nice we get to take a look at them. Sadly, the team never released the actual puppets to the public, so nobody is actually able to animate with these puppets now. We at least have them to look at though. Up next, this is a basic promotional banner that was used for the Tumblr account. I'm pretty sure those are the renders and stills from the actual Friendship is Magic show for Twilight, Rainbow, and Pinkie. You can see by this point though, the film has been delayed to summer 2015. Another special Tumblr image. As is clear, this image was used as a special thanks for reaching 1,000 followers. Notably, the image displays a small locket being held in someone's hooves, likely Twilight Sparkle or Fluttershy. The locket was designed to go to the Archmage, which in the story would have of course been Twilight Sparkle. The element of magic contained its avatar within, and Celestia entrusted Fluttershy with it at the beginning of the quest. Fluttershy carried it for most of the film before giving it to Twilight in her puppet state and releasing the element of magic to restore her. From there, Twilight carried it throughout the rest of the movie, generally unleashing the element of magic and its avatar if there was a need for it. As a result, this art actually showcases a pretty major plot device, but nobody would have known the significance of this little locket at the time. Up next, you likely remember this shot. It's Twilight traveling through the forest on her journey. This was notable, as it is actually the very first production still that was ever made for the movie. This isn't really concept art, but it's still something worth mentioning. This is the front page of the script, posted to the Tumblr after Reinhardt completed it. This wouldn't be the last time the script was written. This is another look at Twilight Sparkle's Flash puppet. We can see all sorts of parts and pieces used to create the product, giving a bit more of an inside look at how the animation and puppet building would have gone. Now let's look at Scene 7A. This would have been the scene after Twilight's massive failure in Canterlot as she retreats from the city and ultimately meets Discord again. There's a lot of storyboards to look at. These storyboards were made by Rogelio Gonzalez, aka Tetrapony. We can see Twilight mourning, likely from the song Twilight's Lament. Right after that, she turns and notices the tower in which Discord would be encased. Twilight slowly and fearfully enters the tower, and we can then see planned sound effects and even dialogue for Twilight throughout the scene. Eventually, Twilight enters the tower, and we have the big reveal. Sitting in the center is none other than Discord's statue, and the two begin their discussion. Along with these storyboards, we also have a look at the background development for the fountain in Scene 7A. These were created by Mr. JJKB, Frozen Death Knight, DDH Yuga Man, and visual effects were handled by My Little Visuals, Korea N, and My Little Brony. It's fun to see how the fountain and surrounding garden are developed through time, and it's clear the team worked hard to make this happen. Up next, we have some sketches by Charles Moss. To be perfectly honest, I have no idea how to describe everything going on here. It seems most of it is depicting Pinkie Pie and Discord interacting during the elements in Discord negotiating a game to find Twilight, though there's clearly more. Shining Armor is notably here, so this was probably before the script change, and Pinkie's mayhem is through the roof. Also, Princess Luna is here. Now, we'll take a break from the concept art and whatnot for an animation test. Animator Connor Bensley created the following animation test to try out the team's Changeling Flash puppets. Do note that this is not for the final movie and was just a one-shot. Also, pun warnings are at a maximum.
Changeling number 151. What would you say if I suggested that we make a game out of how many ponies we could eat?
You mean like Hunger Games?
I will murder everything.
I apologize for that pun. Regardless, this does show the team's progress in practice. They had fully functional puppets set up for the characters beyond the main six, and skilled animators at work. Speaking of animation tests, we actually have more. This is a test in shading and lighting created by Emilio Brenna. We can see from this that the team also had a Princess Celestia Flash puppet rigged and ready as well, and the lighting work here is quite nice to see. Animation director Eric Osborne comes up to bat next, and he made this shading animation test. That one admittedly is really short, but I do appreciate the shading work and the motion is also really well done. Speaking of Flash animation, we've also got the Changeling Flash puppet here. This one sadly does not come with a spinning version, but we can still take a look at what the team was working with. There's also a few extra posters to decide, so we can take a look at those as well. Two of them were pretty frequently used posters, both of which you've seen in this video already. We can note that the second poster has been updated though. It now pushes a release date of Christmas 2015, meaning the film has been pushed back again by now. The other two images were never released in any other form and are sadly not in the best quality given their size. The top one appears to be a standard promotional art for Celestial Spark Studios. The bottom one appears to be designed for the movie's original soundtrack. Up next, we have a truckload of concept art on the Changeling Empire. All of this artwork is to show how the staff envisioned the Changeling Hive base for the film. It's actually a bit similar to the Changeling Hive and To Where and Back Again. That being said, Chrysalis appears to have a far nicer drone room here, although there isn't a magic siphoning drone in sight this time. The Changelings also appear to act more as a settlement of sorts, complete with houses and buildings, rather than acting as a single structured hive mind unit. It's fascinating to see how the staff envisioned the Changelings, and fun to compare to how the Changelings operated in Friendship is Magic, under the reigns of both Chrysalis and even Dorax. This is one that people familiar with Journey of the Spark are likely going to recognize. This is the movie's theatrical poster. It was inspired by similar posters used by Disney during the Renaissance period of their films. It was created by Haley Nelson and showcasing staff names, the updated logo, and a promotional slogan at the top. The image, of course, showcases an enshrouded Twilight Sparkle, and above are the symbol of Princess Celestia and what appears to be Discord's talon. This is undoubtedly one of the best preserved images for the movie. It can frequently be found with items related to the film, and is the image Forrest Green used in Twilight's Lament on YouTube. This is the thumbnail for the 2013 concept trailer. Notably, it showcases Princess Luna, back when she was one of the movie's main characters. This is likely at some point before the cast begins their journey to find Twilight, and they're likely preparing to set out sooner, worrying for Twilight's safety. As we prepare to wrap up this section, here's one last collection of storyboards. These were created by Jen Seggio. They depict a scene in which Discord extensively taunts Princess Celestia over the gravity of the current situation. Discord reveals his plans to reduce Twilight Sparkle to a mere puppet of his, which he of course pulls off quite literally later in the movie. Celestia by this point has been weakened by Discord and Chrysalis, and Discord shows little remorse for his actions in this scene. This actually does a really good job leading up to major problems later in the movie, as Discord succeeds in making Twilight Sparkle a puppet, and Celestia's weakened state is a problem throughout the film until the final battle. Finally, we have two posters that you have already seen. This first one was a promotional poster from earlier in development, depicting most of the main cast and Twilight Sparkle in Discord's clutches. The old version of the logo was used here, and it of course comes with the cast listing as well. Last, but certainly not least, we have the artwork used to depict the On Our Way scene. Most probably recognize it as the art Forrest Green used for the song and the upload, and it stands as one of the best preserved art pieces for the movie. And at long last, that's everything. You now have a good taste of the movie's art, animation, and more. But all good things must come to an end, so it's time to tackle the inevitable subject: how Journey of the Spark met its end. As we all know, Journey of the Spark never came to be, at least not in its entirety. There has been some debate and discussion amongst My Little Pony fans over what exactly took this movie out of the picture. The general consensus is that Hasbro got involved and struck it down with a cease and desist. This is reasonable. Hasbro had previously taken out larger projects like Fighting is Magic and Button's Adventures in the past. However, it was never fully confirmed by the team if Hasbro did strike them, so we've been left to speculate some on what happened to this movie. Thankfully, I did receive some help in tackling this mystery as best as possible. I had a valuable discussion with Little Shy FIM, one of the most prominent members of the fandom. As it turns out, Little Shy was actually on the team for the last week before it went down, having been put into the position as head of VFX. We have no way to definitively prove what finished off the movie, but with Little Shy's help, we can probably form a good idea of what happened. Rhynor's final letter on the film has been successfully preserved by both the Tumblr and Equestria Daily, and from it we can get some information. Right off the bat, we do see that the popular theory likely holds ground. As it turns out, the team for the movie had received a letter from Hasbro in the past, but ignored it, thinking it was a fake. The team had taken some measures to try and make sure Hasbro didn't take out the project. The film actually had Warren Foss' personal blessing, but it should be noted that this had no legal value to the team. According to the Tumblr, the team did attempt to reach out to Hasbro to try and get permission to make the movie, similarly to how Double Rain Boom attempted to steal permission and, in their case, succeeded. However, these seemingly never got a decisive response from Hasbro, at least in the case of Journey of the Spark. As a result, the team never got the legal safety that Double Rain Boom had, and ignoring Hasbro's letter likely left them vulnerable. Eventually, Celestial Spark Studios realized the letter was legitimate, and discussions began. According to Rhynor's letter, Hasbro was actually fine with the movie itself, but did express concerns with some factors. According to Little Shy, there were problems with the film being promoted as a full-on My Little Pony movie, which is a pretty major legal flaw that would breach Hasbro's hold of the IP. Unfortunately, things just got much worse from there. Somehow, the development team's email was hacked. Several documents were leaked by the malicious intruders, which dealt heavy damage. Legal relations with Hasbro continued to strain, with the team keeping their problems largely quiet. With the email hacked and discussions not going anywhere, we don't really quite know what happened at the end, but Hasbro never granted the film permission to be developed. Furthermore, another problem crept onto the scene. While obviously not something that could be confirmed entirely, signs do exist that the team was not entirely content with their situation. Throughout this video, we've gone over several different artists, acting positions, and more. Several of these figures actually quit working for Journey of the Spark at various points throughout development. While there was never a full-on eruption of worker dissatisfaction, various team members continued to drift away and need to be replaced. In fact, Little Shy's position in the final week was actually as a replacement for the previous head of VFX, who had quit shortly prior. The project's organization was just overall seems to have been on the poor side, making it where holes would need to be plugged in the staff on a consistent basis. Overall, with these problems, we can likely get a good idea what happened to the movie. Most signs point to the film likely having been hit by the cease and desist by Hasbro. We cannot outright confirm this is what happened, but given the legal complications that happened and staff actions, I personally do agree it is very likely that this is what happened. Furthermore, we do know that the rumors of team difficulties are true, creating a second problem to be dealt with. At the end of the day, it's quite likely the film just couldn't keep up with the constant departures, having the team email hacked and Hasbro's legal involvement. A cease and desist was very likely placed on the film with these problems, and various team members went their separate ways. Journey of the Spark was no more. At the end of the day, Journey of the Spark is likely one of the most significant disappointments in the fandom. A full movie that never got to be. But that's not to say it's been entirely forgotten, or that nothing ever came of it. After the movie's cancellation, plans existed to make an audio drama with the story and visual art that was created for the movie during development. Unfortunately, these plans actually never got too far, and the audio drama also failed to launch. But some of the resources were released to the public, most of which that we have access to were showcased in this video. Forest Rain would eventually finish creating the second song in the film, Twilight's Lament. With the assistance of FanVA Webcake, the song would finally be completed and released to the public in 2019, a few years after the movie was cancelled. On Our Way actually received a handful of covers over the years. For example, one notable cover was created by a group of fan VAs led by Pinky Rose. I'll link it and another cover in the Google Doc for you to enjoy. Thanks to Lord Malavar's work with the script, Journey of the Spark does exist as a story available for all to read, and it will also be included in the Google Doc. While the film and audio drama were never finished, at the very least the story made it out there for audiences to enjoy. And of course, here in 2022, we have this video documenting the film. At the end, Journey of the Spark sadly failed, but we can remember the journey throughout its development and all the things that did come from it. It is a piece of history in the fandom worth remembering, and hopefully you enjoy this video detailing it. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Today I'll shine like I've never shone before, and I will show the princess that I'm ready for more. I'll dazzle her with magic, every spell that I've done, and I'll prove to her I'm ready for my place in the sun. Today I'll be what I've never been before, and I will take to the sky, spread my wings and soar. There's a brand new spark up in the sky today, and as sure as night is dark, we are on our way.
Today I'll rise with the upper crust, fancy drinks, crystal glass, cider is a must. Clean your hooves, it's a big day. Hold your horses, they're okay. Sure as stubborn ponies squabble, we are on our way.
There'll be ponies laughing, ponies Princess are coming back. It's the event of the century. Pinky? Maybe I'll hide in a cupboard, lock the door. There won't be thousands of ponies there by far. Are you sure? I could find a little corner I could use for a day.
Don't listen to Pinkie Pie. She's gone off the hay. And as sure as the Wonderbolt flies, we are on our way.
The bumpy road to